It is 7:02. I will call to order the October 2nd meeting of the Amity City Council. Please rise and join me in saluting the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tasha, will you take roll for us, please?
Melissa Paparka, President April Knight, President Sandy Parker, President Caleb Shields,
Here.
Alice Thompson, Mayor Richard.
Here. Okay, we'll start this evening with the consent agenda. We have budget versus actuals and minutes from the regular September meeting, the work session, and a special meeting.
I move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. For further discussion, on page 6 of the packet, there is mention of the mixing stone study, zone study.
Yeah.
We're gonna change stone to zone.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I missed that.
Yeah, I missed it earlier too, like 5 minutes.
I missed the reading them, so.
I was gonna say, I missed it reading it.
I did the first time as well. It's only one, it's 2 letters.
Okay,
But it happened multiple.
Yeah, but it was, but it is. So, it's fine.
so I move to approve the consent agenda with that correction.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Budget. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with that small change. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no.
What minutes were they in now?
Paper?
Which date?
Yeah.
Was it just a regular meeting?
Yeah, September 4th. So like have it right. We will move on to citizen comments and questions. This is an opportunity to present items not on the regular agenda. Please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. We will start off this evening with the Yamaha County Sheriff's Office. And we did have the report in the packet as well. So Deputy Samradek, do you have anything else?
So, we've had a couple changes. So, Deputy Navarro's last day was this last week before. Yes. And then our undersheriff, Sheriff Battle, has taken a day shift spot. And he's working the same schedule, I think the same hours and everything that Deputy Navarro's working. So, we've been very short across the board at the office. So, you'll probably see more admin coming out, including the sheriff, on the roads. With summer coming to an end, school's back in session. Hopefully things kind of calm down in the county wide. With the school starting, obviously we get more calls from the schools, so it's kind of a trade-off. But yeah, there's been some issues with people speeding on Nursery coming into town. So that's, we're trying to address that as we can. But yeah. See if we have any questions for the Sheriff's Office.
So we're not, as of now, we don't have a dedicated daytime, it will just be revolving.
So I believe, and Sergeant Herr's gonna get with Nathan, we're in the middle of shift change, so I think tomorrow tomorrow's his first day shift spot, or first day on day shift, so at some point he'll come down and chat with you. But I believe, and Sergeant Her can clarify this, but I believe they're gonna keep the undersheriff in Amity until we can backfill positions. So that could be a month or 2. I know we have one guy that's in FTEP in training right now. He's working tonight, and he's a lateral, so he should be fairly quick. And then we'll probably leave him in the county and then open the spot, make an announcement to the Sheriff's Office for deputies to put in for it. And I don't know if they're gonna wait to get one more, because like I said, we're short across the board. So there's some nights when after 1 o'clock when the contract cities go home that there's 3 deputies for the entire county. So it's
So we should have some stability and you'll keep us updated.
Yes, yes. So undersheriff will be in Amity until we have some new replacement. So.
And then I have one more question. So with calls to the schools, are those kept track of? So like we could know possibly how many times they were called to the school in a given month?
It should be, yes. The nature of the call can change. It could be a harassment, it could be a fight, it could be,
Because it's not, I don't think it's gonna be
Doesn't break
noted
down.
in the reports we get,
yeah,
just because it's different types of calls.
yes.
But if there was any way that we could see like how many times the deputies.
35% of our calls from the school.
Yeah, just out of
Yeah.
curiosity, if you could maybe look into.
Yeah, I'll talk with Sergeant Kerr and the other sheriff and see if that's something we can, and if that means we just keep track on our end.
Yeah, and we don't, I don't need more details than that, I'm just curious of like how much service they're needing.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions from the sheriff's department? Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone from DIG here this evening? We do not. Councilor Marquez, would you like to give a short DIG update?
Sure. So DIG has started its meetings for the year a little early to start planning for the Daffodil Festival. As always, volunteers are needed and welcome. We are going to be doing an additional event this year, Dig for Dig, I think is what we decided on calling it. And we're going to be planting tons of daffodil bulbs around town. So that's going to be November 2nd, and we'll have a flyer go out. We'll announce it with, I think, bulbs that we'll give away at the Harvest Festival. It'll be on the reader board, all of those things with more information on the time and everything once it's up and running, but you'll see a flyer circulate around for that. We'd love to have volunteers and support to get more daffodils in the ground and beautify Amity City.
Thank you. Thanks.
Is there a date for the Daffodil Festival?
The last Saturday of March. Which is the 29th.
I'll call for other citizen comments and questions.
My name is Dawn King, I'm at 402 Nursery Street. I was coming in tonight because I recently sold a property here in town, and there were 4 liens against our property that were from 2005 and 2006 that I had no knowledge about at all. We were never notified about it. One of the people, the renters that was in the place, he'd lived here the whole time, moved from our rental to bought a house here in town, and was also a city employee, and had an outstanding balance there. I could not sell my property until all these were paid, which they've all been paid, but I don't think when I came in and was talking to Tasha earlier, I was telling her that, or she was telling me that your guys' policy has changed, because we were not notified. I have every piece of paper from the time we bought that property until I sold it this week. And, but this was from, 18, 19 years ago. And so I was talking to Tasha, she was saying that the one file that you guys don't even have a file on, whether it was paid, whether it was not paid. It was never sent to collections, that I could possibly be refunded for that.
Are all the other ones except that one?
I paid all of them, well, no, they're all paid, because my property would not sell. My issue is, we were never told about them, because we would have taken them out of their deposit and paid it. And so but she was saying that your guys' policies changed now. She has no way to know anything back then when she wasn't here. And I get, none of you guys were here.
So Tasha, can you explain what the policy is now? And I'm guessing that's not happening now because of an updated policy?
What is
Or-
happening now?
Like the property owner, are they being
They're
notified?
notified, yeah, so they get notified, so the process is, account gets closed. We send a final bill out to the customer, they have 30 days to pay, if we don't receive payment, we send a second notice out to the customer. They have another 30 days to pay, if it doesn't get paid, we send a letter out to them saying the next step is they're going to collections and now they have to pay it. And at that time, we send the letter to the owner, letting them know their renter is past due and they will be going to collections, they have this date. And a lot of times the owner will come in and pay it because they don't wanna deal with it. And then if we don't hear anything or it doesn't get paid, they go to collections and Metro charges 35% fee. And so that's why I was saying the 3 have been sent to collections, and so they have to get paid no matter what, because Metro has to be paid, and it's through Metro now. But yeah, as far as Clark goes, I don't have a file, I don't have proof, I have nothing, so.
So I guess, is your question about the one we have no information on?
Yes,
You have paid it.
Yeah,
So
I
you're
have to.
requesting, you're requesting a refund
yes.
for that.
And I told her, yeah, she has to go to the council ask for the.
How old is this?
What was that?
How old is that?
That one is from 2006, it closed.
18
For
years.
$271.90. And I can't explain why it didn't go to collections, I just, all the other 3 did go to collections, I don't know why he didn't go. And our new system, I was explaining to Dawn, our new system now allows us, if a customer closes their account, we can transfer that balance over to their new, if they move in town. We weren't able to do that at that time, so it was more paperwork. Well, I can't explain, 20 years ago what happened, but I know what we do now, and yes, we transfer those balances to their new house, and it gets paid that way as well.
So the 206 was not sent to collections?
271.
Oh, 271.
Yeah, so the one there was one in 2011, which went to collections, another one that was in 2006 that went to collections, and one in 2000.
So procedurally, I will open this up if council has questions or discussion, but can we just, can I entertain a motion and act on it? Right? Is there questions or discussion?
I have a question just about procedurally now. Are we able with our new system to set up landlord accounts?
We do have language. So
Okay, so now the owner will be notified when there's an outstanding balance and the account is closed? Because that's how it's worked in other cities.
we notify yes, so we notify the owner I missed that step, I was more worried about the collections. As soon as somebody's account gets closed, we either call the landlord or send them a letter, let them know it's been, we don't tell them the balance, we just say your landlord has been moved out and whether they want the water turned on or off at that time. Because we try to collect, well, with that final bill, a lot of times they'll just pay that final bill. Because we do deduct the deposit from there. That they don't.
I think in other cities I've been in, if there's an outstanding balance after 30 days, the landlord is notified of that outstanding balance so that they can deduct.
So we
it
notify
from-
60 days.
60?
Because by the time we bill it
Before
to them,
goes to collections.
Yeah, but that doesn't give the landlord enough time to take it out of their deposit because they have 30 days to refund the tenant their deposit. So I would hope that we could change something in that so that within the first 30 days, the landlord is notified that there's an outstanding balance that is overdue. And then they can make sure it's paid with their tenant and we're not out money if they don't end up back in the city and they're not with a lien on their property.
When accounts are closed, not just
Right.
anytime.
Right.
Expecting.
When accounts are closed. Maybe. I think that would be helpful, and that's what I've seen done in other cities. If there's an outstanding balance and the account's closed, the landlord is notified that there's a balance on it. But I don't know how that is gonna work in our system. If there's a way to easily do that.
I'll talk to them on
It just puts it like another
Yeah.
step ahead of getting
Yeah.
paid for the city and for the owner of the property.
It's just sometimes it's hard when, if you send it to the owner right away and you send it to your renter right away and they pay it, and now you got the landlord paying it, now we're turning on and trying to send back reimbursement, so it kind of gets
It's,
a little tricky.
it's more of a notice of this is outstanding on the account that was closed on this date, so that they know.
Well, a
to
lot of
check
times
in.
the owner will come in and just pay it.
But probably will come out of their deposits.
Right,
Yeah,
It's not,
so-
it's coming,
So when you send the announcement to the property owner that the account has been closed, the landlord that it's been closed, are you able to add if there's an outstanding
Yes.
balance or not?
Yeah.
I think that would be the
Right.
same thing,
Right.
because then
The
they would
landlord's
have
gonna
that for
check
30
on the
days
date.
before they got next notice. So on the request at hand, do I have anyone that would like to?
I move that we approve a reimbursement for the outstanding. Thank you, 2006 for charge for $271.90 for 402 Nursery.
I second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to reimburse the $271.90 for 402 Nursery property owner. 404. Thank
I
you.
think 402.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. Thank you for coming, Dawn. Do I have any other citizen comments? Do we have anyone online, Nathan? I don't have my computer tonight.
Not that I would confirm, no.
Okay, with that, we'll move into old business, of which there is none, into new business. And our first item this evening is President Howard from Chemeketa Community College.
Thank you, council members. Very, very nice to be here. Thank you, Nathan. Just wanted to share a little bit of information with you all about the college and how we're engaging with Amity, specifically Amity High School. And then also just a little information about the bond measure that's going to be on the November ballot. And I do have handouts that I can share with you all so you can see it in glowing color if you're interested. So Chemeketa has a very strong relationship with Amity High School. We've got many students that we share. Just some data that we have, some relatively recent data. As of 2022-23, we offered 153 students dual credit courses, which are college credit and high school courses in the high school, saving students $19,878 in that 1 year. Over the last 5 years, again, this is about a year-old data at this point, but the last 5 years, 62 graduates of Amity High School qualified for Oregon Promise and went to Chemeketa, and that was a savings of $167,263. In terms of the last decade, 63 students from Amity qualified for Oregon Promise, which means they had a GPA of 3.5 or above in their senior year, came to Chemeketa. That means they qualified for the full tuition scholarship that is unique at Chemeketa, receiving benefits of $333,597 to be exact. 28% of Amity High School graduates from 21-22 enrolled at Chemeketa in the following year. That is a very healthy percentage. In the past 5 years, 91 alumni of Amity High School completed certificates, degrees, or transferred from Chemeketa to a university. So all really, I think, interesting statistics, and of course we continue to try to nurture that relationship, and I think there's a lot of good things happening. One thing to share that is new is that we were the only institution in Oregon to qualify for a specific federal grant called the Rural Post-Secondary and Economic Development Program federal grant. And this is a grant that is designed to build CTE for rural students. And Amity qualifies and is in our district for that. Not every area in our district, because we serve Marion, Polk, and Yamhill counties, obviously, like Woodburn is too urban to qualify, those students to qualify for these efforts. But what this means is that Amity High School students can take 3 courses that we call our BOLT courses, which simply means college courses for seniors who enroll or the summer right after they graduate. Those are free CTE courses, in other words, career technical education courses, and also some targeted high school courses. Again, this is all about building career technical education opportunities for rural students. And then we also offer some specific bilingual resources to support engaging Hispanic students in higher education. All of that is as a result of this grant, and Amity is in our service area for that. So that's exciting. That's for the next 4 years or so. So that's something to look forward to, and I would welcome the opportunity to come and report on that later if you're interested.
Can you repeat the name of the grant?
Yes, it's called the RPED grant, RPED.
Thank you.
Something like Rural Post-Secondary Education D or something.
I can look it up just based on
But
that.
it's a Department of Ed, yeah. And so it was a really big deal, and we're really excited about it because CTE in rural areas is a real challenge, just because of the infrastructure, equipment required. You're lucky if you have a handful of programs, and what if your students aren't interested in those particular programs? How do you serve them? So this is all about connecting students to more options. So that's kind of the state of things. And with Amity, I think we're really excited to serve. We do, as I've been going around the entire district talking about this bond measure, I start by just saying a couple of things about, did you know about Chemeketa? So my guess is you have some knowledge of Chemeketa. You may have gone to Chemeketa, you may know someone who's been to Chemeketa, right? We have a pretty awesome penetration rate, if you will. But Chemeketa is the state's 2nd largest community college. The largest is Portland Community College, obviously, from the metro region with that population. We're the 2nd largest. We serve 18,000 students a year. We serve Marion, Polk, Yamhill counties, and then Lynn County up the canyon. So it's a large footprint. We're the only ones that offer the Chemeketa Scholars Program. That's entirely self-funded. If students qualify for that and Oregon Promise, we are giving them money after they've paid for absolutely everything. It's one of these things that we can't get the word out enough about, because if students don't come immediately from high school, that money is all gone. It's gone. And that is, it pains me. But there are a lot of people who just don't know about this. So this is, again, another thing that I want to just emphasize when I'm out and about. One other thing to share, we have something called the Chemeketa Press, which is our own homegrown publishing company that saved students over $6 million already in textbook costs since it's been in place in 2016. That's significant because textbook costs sometimes they cost more than the course. So most of those books are $20 a piece. The most expensive is $50. It's such a successful effort. These are beautiful peer-reviewed textbooks that other colleges and universities nationwide are using these books. It's a Chemeketa Press product. It's obviously something that our own community benefits from the most. So that's just something to share. This bond measure that we've got, because I know you've got other things on your agenda. Essentially, a couple of just a few salient points, and then if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Do you want me to fly it out?
Well, I would love that. Thank you. The number one thing to share is that part of the reason Chemeketa has been able to do all the things it's done is because back in 2008, our service district approved a bond levy. It was for $92 million, 27 cents per $1,000 dollars of property value. And that bond ended up increasing capacity in emergency services, healthcare programs, and general education programs, applied technology programs. Tens of thousands of students came through our doors because of that bond. So that bond is about to sunset. This is the salient point. So it's going to be completely paid off in the next year or a bit. The bond measure that's on the November ballot which is for the exact same amount, 27 cents per thousand, if passed, would come in right behind it. So the taxpayer would see no difference. So it does not raise the tax rate vis-a-vis Chemeketa. That, I think, is a super important point. Our board was very, very adamant about that. They did not want to raise taxes on our community. So that's point number one. Point number two is that we came up with the projects for this bond, that this bond would fund, based on a lot of community input. And in a very short, just kind of to rattle them off, and you've got it all there, it's to continue our career and technical education programming, specifically to double paramedic output. Every community I know of is having a crisis in paramedics in terms of having enough, and certainly having the dual language, right? So we are going to double our output. That means we have to change our facilities to do so. Secondly, healthcare and the trades. We need to expand our construction offerings. All of these things will probably have a big impact in Salem, but because of grants like the one I just described, all of our CTE efforts are connected to the outreach we provided to the rural high schools. So not sure exactly how that's made manifest, but it is a significant point. So CTE, we're also going to be looking at basically making a building that we have on the Salem campus, a disaster resilience center. This is the building that housed the incident command for the Beach Creek fire, and will likely be that kind of a resource in the future. We've got to shore it up so we can continue to serve that way. So there's a real community focus there. And then other things have to do with the changing technology that we think there to do that. Anyway, it's all listed there. It's good stuff. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, President Howard. Any questions? I don't think so. That was a lot of info, a lot of good info.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate being your community college. If there's anything else that you need, I am easy to find.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, our next item of new business is tourism slogan. Councilor Thompson, do you want to share some background and?
I would love to.
Okay.
So the tourism committee has been meeting monthly since the spring. Yeah. And we have finished the strategic plan that you all approved a couple months ago, and we are moving forward into some of our first goals, and one of them is just really getting a good social media presence, as well as being able to put together some materials. And so we wanted to have an official tourism slogan that we could use with some of our branding. We did some community surveys, we did some good team brainstorming, and we have landed on Amity, where friendships begin, as the slogan that we would like to use. In addition, so we talk about everything?
It's a separate
That's a
agenda
separate thing.
item.
Okay, never mind,
So,
great. I'll talk about the other thing.
yeah, no, that will be, so for this agenda item, interesting, so we couldn't find where it was ever formally adopted, but Amity's slogan, the city of Amity
That's what it
slogan.
is, yeah, that was the other thing I meant.
Oh, yes,
Read my mind.
yes, we should. Would you like to?
Go ahead.
Has been where friendship begins, which is slightly different. My hope, and I think the tourism committee's hope, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the city could embrace the same as the tourism slogan, rather than have, a couple letters flip-flopped. When the community survey went out, there was a fair amount of feedback there, but over half of the respondents, of which there were 10,
11 by the time we finished our meeting.
chose this one. So I think that there's like a lot of nostalgia, and people like this, but it is a slight change. So I think we also wanted to ask council's thoughts on changing it officially for the tourism committee, but then also for the city to use, so there's just cohesion through it. So I suppose by formal adoption through this motion, it would also give the go-ahead for staff and city branding to just make that slight change as well. Any questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the requested tourism in City of Amity slogan to Amity where friendships begin. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the requested tourism and City of Amity slogan to Amity, where friendships begin. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. Our next agenda item is also coming from the Tourism Committee. Councilor Thompson, I will let you take that as well.
Great, so as we are working on our branding and our image launching, we are going to run into some expenses. We are acquiring a domain. We may want some social media boost and other advertising expenses. We were hoping that we could ask for it to just a $200 allowance rather than having to come every time we needed $25.
I cannot remember off the top of my head, but I want to say there was about 8,000 as a line item for tourism expenses in budget.
Or is there still that much this year left in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was there was a beginning balance and then there was an allocated balance, and so it really is about that. So the request is.
I just couldn't remember if we spent any this year or not. So. Motion to approve the requested funding for use by the tourism committee of up to $200. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the requested funding of up to $200 for use by the tourism committee. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. Our last item of new business for the night is water rate resolution. Nathan, I will let you take this one. Provide a little bit of background, if you will, and then talk about the other resolution, the same, different resolution. Okay.
As we've talked about frequently over the last couple of months, the city of Amity has, done some water rate studies and work over the last couple of years to get us to where we are now. We've brought the city or the water revenue a long way. Unfortunately, the USDA project's debt service will be significantly higher than it was anticipated at the time of the OAWU water rate study. Basically the estimate, the best estimate that I have so far of that gap of how much more that debt service is going to be over what we had anticipated is about $200,000. So we've been in search of a way to kind of make up that gap and get as far towards that as we can, so that we're balancing each year. After we've reviewed a few different resolutions, a few different rate proposals, the city council has come to a consensus in the past of increasing the current base rate by 10% and the consumption charge by $1 for each tier. These changes would occur on November 1st, 2024, and then CPI increases are set to also occur on January 1st of 2025. And so on September 25th, the city council held a town meeting regarding the increased rates. I believe that went fairly well. Several community members attended and provided staff and council in attendance with feedback, opinions, and questions. There was certainly some frustration expressed, as can be completely understood, as we've expressed here in the city council, our work sessions before too, that nobody loves the idea of increasing water rates, and we're trying to figure out the best way to make up the revenue needed and to be able to pay that debt service each year and maintain our water system going forward.
Before I open this up for council discussion, do we have any citizen comments or questions on this agenda item?
If I can add really quick, sorry, the resolution itself, the one included in the agenda packet, I spaced it, I had not updated the language. It says, whereas the Amity City Council desires to change the water rates and charges to guarantee that the city has sufficient revenues. That language was changed, or we had talked about changing that language to, whereas the Amity City Council desires to change the water rates and charges to better ensure that the city has sufficient revenues to pay for water system operations. So I have a copy with that change. Additionally, the 6th paragraph down, I believe it says, it says, and maintain financially sustainable sewer utility systems, change that to water utility systems. And then finally it says adopted by the 7th day of July 2021, change that to today's date.
So, at the end of any discussion, if we had a motion to approve this resolution number, it can just be approved as is because the changes are made. We'd be approving that updated version. Do we have council discussion?
I feel like it's been pretty discussed.
We're all disgusting.
We're discussing.
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate or clarify, so with these suggested changes and knowing that we have that gap of 200,000, we anticipate that this will get us halfway to where we need to be? And what does that time, like, within a year, should it get us there?
Yes.
I mean, just so we can have like a point that as we get towards next year to see if we're on track or not.
And so essentially you'd be looking over an entire fiscal year. Most of our water rate changes happen in the winter, in the middle of the fiscal year. But, I mean, you can look at, each month as you go. Essentially having 12 months worth of data with the new change will be helpful, right? Because usage changes through the summer. And so any increase in revenue that the consumption tier change is going to have is going to be really visible in the summer. And if the consumption tier change encourages people to not use any water, which it very well could, and then revenues could slide down on the consumption side. And so then we could revisit as well. But I think having a full year, generally speaking, people are fairly consistent with their water use. And so having in that, like each November, people use about the same water each November. And so it changes throughout the year, but once we have 12 months of data, it should be pretty visible whether we're going to need to bump up more, whether we're going to be.
And I'm also thinking, so you'll start budgeting the water fund though in less than 6 months' time.
I will.
So this is a first step to just kind of step back and see. It's not going to solve our problems. I guess that's what I want to make clear. But what I've heard is that there's acknowledgement that it's really a necessary step. Yeah. Is there anything else to discuss? Questions, comments, concerns?
I think because I was a part of the town hall, I'll just kind of announce some of the suggestions that the community had as well. That's okay. So it was mentioned a want for low income or discounts for seniors. And I know council has talked about a program like that before. I just wanted to reiterate that there was a call for it at the town hall. there seemed to be a consensus that adding text messages for meetings and for events was helpful, and that they'd like to see that followed through. And a call for possibly extending the service area to get more income in, even, but that also means that the city is paying for those lines to get extended. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Do you want to spend money to invest in a larger service, but then you have those customers? Also looking at, with Amity, it is sort of a little desert around, so you're extending, but how many customers are you really getting by extending? So I think that that's worth looking at or discussing. Did I cover it up?
I think, yeah.
And we did have 10 individuals show up, so, of various ways that they had heard about the meeting, so, all there for the same purpose, but our outreach is reaching, so that was good. I would say it was double as many as we've ever had come to town hall. If there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion. I think the recommendation is still old. Is that so? Yeah. But you guys can.
Motion to approve resolution number 2024-13 for a water rate increase effective November 1st, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2024-13, a water rate increase effective November 1st, 2024. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. That is our last stated item of new business, but I also had something I wanted to add as a discussion item, and it's something that Councilor Mohart has just touched on. And it was a reduced utility rate program. It's something we have talked about, and it was something that was brought up again at the meeting. Nathan and I had a brief discussion about how it might possibly work, what that would look like, impacting the revenues that we're seeking and needing. But I just thought I would ask council how they feel about that, and if they're willing to let staff explore how to maybe try to make that work.
Absolutely. I'd like some information, at least of, is it feasible? On our end.
It feels like it's feasible. I mean, the impact to the amount of revenue it might offset is one thing to consider, and it's kind of an unknown, right? Because we don't know how many. But there's a lot of other programs out there, and if you can use the eligibility for those programs that are really stringent in income guidelines to kind of like screen who would be eligible for something here, it would lighten the administrative load to where it wasn't a lot of extra work on our staff, but it would be equitable across the playing field and like pretty easy.
Then that would be nice to have the qualifications sort of
Take
set,
care of.
not by us.
Yeah. Kind of pre-vetted.
Yeah.
And I would just say my initial proposal for that would be something like a 10% discount. But if that's something that I don't hear opposition to staff looking into, that could be like a upcoming work session so that we could, possibly get something approved and on the books before the beginning of the year, when we have a CPI increase that will follow.
So, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Is there any resources for those people outside of the city
For utilities.
for utilities? I know there's, in other towns, there's some resources that you can get to help with your utility bills and stuff. My only concern is adding load to staff and the whole, how do you vet who gets the discount, and making policy around that gets really tricky, I think, or can be.
It can be.
And I just,
there's other resources that we can direct people to help with that, maybe might make more sense. I'm not sure.
There are, but funding is really limited for those programs.
So there's not anything officially funded through the state or through YCAP, so it's more like church services or like St. Vincent's, that kind of thing. And there's just such a high need because they service a large area. For a while, there was a state-funded program through YCAP, and we did send people there. That no longer has federal funding, so it's no longer operating in the state of Oregon. And so there's not. I do have some ideas of how this could work fairly efficiently in office. So maybe if we could just work through it. I think if we work through it at a work session, you might feel a little more comfortable.
Sure.
I just don't want to take the time to get into it because this is just a short discussion. Okay. But anything I'm hearing, let no advise if you take some staff time to kind of work through how that might look.
And so we've discussed some of the ideas, like how we could make it work administratively, and I think depending on the level of stringency that council would want to see, it could be relatively simple for staff time. So, and then it would be, determine who all, should be covered under something like that, or which groups essentially, and then what kind of discount it would be, and but I think as far as the administrative side, it could be relatively simple. It is definitely still, an extra burden, but I think I've heard from staff that.
It depends on which way you're going.
Yeah, well, and I think I've heard from staff that they're certainly willing to support a program like that, that they want to be able to help the community in any way we can with water bills and with utility rates, and so any more tools that we can give them to say, hey, like, have you tried this? Would you qualify for this? Can we help you out some way? They want to do it, so.
So if we're going to discuss it at the work session, I guess whatever you come back with what you explore, and then, Tasha's input too would be great.
Okay.
Or Mona's, I guess, if she's willing to.
All right. We'll move on to department reports and start with city administrator report. It's getting close to 8, then it's the ability to sleep.
A few call outs, September 19th and 20th were incredibly busy days for the city of Amity. I just want to express gratitude for fantastic crew, both public works and city staff. I think they really came together and helped everybody across the board, helped members of the community throughout Amity, and to both stay informed, to communicate back and forth as needed with public works and city staff, and really put our system to a test, but also came away with several things that we want to improve on. From that point forward, right, that's when we really started pushing like the text message and email notifications. You'll probably see in your water bill that we included that on I think in the Amity info corner. I think Mayor King's message included it. Mona also hand stuffed little slips of paper for anybody that we didn't have a cell phone number or an email for.
She checked each account
Every
one
single
by one.
She went through every
Every
single
single one to check.
It took her 2 days.
That's 700. That's awesome. But I appreciated having those emails and texts. Those were wonderful. Those were great. I appreciate you guys doing that.
Have you had a big uptick in people?
Yeah. Well, every time somebody comes in, she double checks and she'll get updated.
That's great.
Yeah, so she's been pushing, getting updates from the citizens. She also went through any phone numbers that might have been transitioned from our old system, but that looked like cell phone numbers. Because you know which ones are the landlines, so you don't need those ones. But the other ones that look like cell phone numbers and were just brought over from the old system, so which means our new system wouldn't count them as cell phone numbers, they are. She manually switched those or updated those so that those would count. City staff has been pushing it really hard, and so I really appreciate that.
That's great.
The town hall meeting went really well. Additionally, Friday, September 27th, Mayor King and I have the opportunity to visit LCDC and request voluntary periodic review for the comprehensive plan. That meeting was really enjoyable and hopeful to see the commissioners and the LCD staff excited about our project, excited about essentially, as they put it, Amity showing leadership in the period and the comprehensive plan space and periodic review, hoping that we can have a successful project that other cities can learn from and look at as a good example. So both,
We're paving the way.
yeah, I'd say we're both increasing the pressure on Amity to do it well, but also know that we have a bunch of support from all of the LCD staff, their commission. Everybody wants to see it work well and set up Amity for success over the long term. We underwent the field audit, that went well. Our LED lights were, oh, we don't even have the middle bar turned on. I will turn that on so you can see the lighting difference, but this room is a lot better because we have LED lights now instead of the ones that didn't work in the past. Yesterday, October 1st, this week, Safe Routes to School consultant performed a walk audit. That went really well. We walked through the community, got to see the school let out from both the elementary school and the high school. Got to show them each of the like curbs or missing spots of sidewalk where we really need it.
Were there any community participants in that?
There was one at the beginning, but I think she had kids to pick up. So unfortunately, planning a walk audit at the same time as when everybody's picking up their kids it's both when you need to do it, but also when nobody else can help you. But Mayor King, myself, the Superintendent Clark, and Principal Sticka were there. And so...
And then the ODOT representative.
Yes, yeah. And so we got to talk through the various pedestrian routes in the city and how we might be able to help both traffic and pedestrian safety throughout. And I think we came away with some really good ideas. It'll be interesting to see what they put together for their plan, but then they'll bring that back in them. I don't know exactly how long it'll take. The goal timeline is for the plan to be adopted in the spring. And so they'll probably come back in a couple of months with a plan, a draft for us to review, provide some feedback on, talk through some more, and then have that ready to go next spring. I have a couple of other quick items, if it's okay. Just so you guys know, I think we've discussed this a little bit in the past, or we've had somebody in the past come and ask about water service outside of the city limits, outside of the UGB. I got another request for that from Amity City up on Rice Lane. They're building a new processing facility just outside of the city's UGB and city limits. It's one of those where, I wish we were in a better spot to help them. Oregon statewide planning goal 11 does strongly encourage cities to limit facility development to within the city limits. Just so that, I think the thinking is so that farmland isn't being used for more dense residential development just because water is available. And so they are, restrict cities from extending their services. One question I had, in the past, or historically to date, on YouTube, we've only posted the city council's regular meetings. Is there any interest in posting other meetings, other committees, or do we just want to keep that to just the regular meetings, and that any other, we keep all the recordings for the other meetings, and then so people can always reach out and I can share a recording directly of like a work session or historic landmarks committee meeting. But I didn't know if there was any interest in getting those on YouTube as well, or if we want them to be separated and not posted to the internet for all to see.
I know if there's any strong preferences. My preference would be that we keep it the formal council meetings, and then they are public record and public meetings, and so if anyone has interest, just maybe spread the word a little bit more that all our meetings are available if you come in and ask. Kind of thing.
Yeah, I think just a little more,
Because
we're not hiding anything, we just don't need more stuff on the internet.
it's also nice, like, I did it just this evening, actually, when you pull up and you can just see the months and the meetings. And it's not like, oh, this is this, and this is this, and this is this date.
Right.
So,
It's council meetings.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as that's concerned, I could pull them into separate playlists for each meeting type, but I'm just saying that
yeah.
there's ways to organize it, but also, yeah, I get that it is a lot simpler if you just see not that for now. No, that's totally fine. Speed photo radar. LSC recently came out with a webinar on the speed photo radar laws in the state of Oregon that have been recently updated to essentially allow all cities to do it, have a little wider use of it, and to set it up, with some parameters and some rules around it. But they gave those presentations basically on how to set it up, what cities need to consider. I just wanted to ask general thoughts, consensus. Is that something you would like me to explore more? I know it's come up a lot, right, that speed on Highway 99 is a fair concern a lot of the time, right? And even with, our flashing beacon in Rice Lane, there's still, pedestrian concerns about people speeding through that street, speeding during the night, or when it's dark. And so if that's something that we have interest in, I'm happy to, look more into it, figure out the process, see what the steps and the costs will be, and figure it out. But if not, then I'll abandon it there.
Are we able with the new rules to put it on nursery and trade?
I believe so. We would definitely need to coordinate with ODOT, and figure out, the best locations, figure out the.
Are they permanent then?
They would be on fixed poles, essentially.
Can't imagine what the cost would be.
Yeah, I was
just
gonna say,
it was like 100,000.
I was gonna
I
say,
guess that's my fear, but if Nathan is asking for, the ability to explore, he could come back with answers.
you could.
So,
yeah, let us know, and it's, I feel like we all think it's gonna be a really big number, and that that'll be as far as it goes, but let's.
Okay.
and
I
it
was-
feels,
I was curious about community feeling of it, like.
So
They'll hate it, but.
Well, here's my thoughts on that though. I think the people that are speeding through on Trade and Nursery tend to be commuters going to Salem.
Yep.
And I think that the people in the community are less likely to speed on those roads, and it's not gonna affect our community as much as it will bring in a ton of revenue. I mean, the one light in Sheridan, I think I read, brings in 2.2 million for them.
Oh, that's crazy.
And so, I mean, think about the traffic coming in.
Sherwood.
Sherwood, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sheridan.
I know what you meant. Sorry. Also tired. But I think looking beyond some of the cost, I know that there are some grants for that, that we can look into, and looking at a long-term, what this would bring into the community as far as revenue. It would also relieve some of our police department hours patrolling that, and it would just be set. It might be worth.
So many complaints about that.
Right, and it would keep our residents much safer, much happier.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it hurts, and you could, Newburgh is just going through this, so you'd be able to check with them, they would have current costs.
Yeah, they're just reinstalling one now.
Love it.
I'd say I've heard that Amity used to be known as the speed trail in Danville County.
It definitely was. I actually sat through a college lecture at Oregon State once on an entire period on just the speed trap of Amity, Oregon.
I'm gonna pick on you because you were too quiet. Do you have any strong opposition to Nathan looking into that?
I got to donate to Sherwood here.
Sure, would think so. I think many of us have.
I have. Not for
And you know, it would be a slightly different situation because they have a red light and speed, and ours would just be speed, but I think it would still capture quite a bit of traffic, especially late at night when you see people just flying through town. Or early in the morning.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to keep this going. There's one more kind of question to get a little bit of input. So FEMA, we've talked about this briefly in the past, their National Flood Insurance Program and their pre-implementation measures. There's been a little bit more, I don't know if drama is the right word, politics. Essentially, the governor of Oregon sent FEMA a letter saying, hey, please don't require this of cities because it's too much, it's too fast. Postpone your requirements until we have more information and FEMA can help us out more. There's no word right now whether or not FEMA's going to listen to that letter. They certainly don't have to. There are a lot of different pressures. And so as of right now, the deadline for cities to decide which implementation measure we would like to pursue for dealing with development in the floodplain is December 1st of this year. We don't have to have code officially implemented yet, but we have to have decided which route we want to go. And I believe and then have it implemented by July 1st of next year. Essentially, the three options we've talked about are, one is permit by permit, essentially where we would require anybody putting in for to build in a floodplain. There's a list of requirements, so they would have to do a bunch of technical reports. It means that the city then has to have somebody who can actually review those and make sure that they're real. There's a lot of question there, and a lot of cities in Oregon really don't like that approach. The model ordinance approach, that essentially they provided an ordinance that we could pass. So it takes the stress off of me writing something, but the model ordinance includes like where you have to mitigate inch for inch, right? If you take up some of the floodplain, you have to create floodplain somewhere else and make sure to, preserve riparian areas throughout, and there's a lot in that too that would make building the floodplain very, very expensive. The third option is a temporary ban until they come out with their full-fledged measures in, I don't know what exactly their timeline was for those, but it's probably a year and a half, maybe a couple years.
And I know you had those maps. Is this the 100-year floodplain or the 100-year floodplain?
Mm-hmm.
Were there any empty lots in that? The city?
Probably the biggest one was community home builders. I know there's several that are affected by it
Are existing.
that are existing, yeah. And
But you know how there's some empty lots in town in that area, so it's just.
like the one north of First Street, that one is in the UGB, not in the city limits. And that one is pretty heavily, those three lots to the north there are pretty heavily in the floodplain. There are some little empty ones that I'm pretty sure, but for the most part, it's also going to be existing property owners that now essentially can't do anything in half of their property or.
So here's a question for you. So Community Home Builders is planning on doing this within 5 years, and this implements, you said July 1st or January 1st?
So we have to have it passed by July 1st.
July 1st. They're not going to have their homes built by then. Does that grandfather it in because the plans have already been approved, or does that?
That question, I believe, came up in the webinar that I watched, and FEMA wasn't entirely sure.
Helpful. Another reason they should give us more time.
I'd say part of the issue is that FEMA's response to this felt very much like they didn't truly understand Oregon's planning system. But I believe that the decisions would be grandfathered in. Most of our decisions anyway, the general precedent is that whatever is in code at the time is the way it goes, right? Like if the city passed different code tomorrow for ADUs, it wouldn't change the fact that, or if we changed something in the code to not allow community home builders in anymore, they've already been approved, they're already through, can't go back and say, well, take that away essentially. So I think that's the way it would go, but I'm not sure.
That would be my biggest
Also-
item of clarification on that.
Yeah.
I thought though they had the floodplain delineation changed because with their HUD funding, they could not be within the floodplain.
In community home builders case, yes, I definitely think that.
So even if we implemented that, they've already modified from their original plans to not be in there because of their federal funding.
No. So that one's not a concern, but, I mean, the concern still stands of like, if we get an application tomorrow and it's in the floodplain, do we pass it or do we say, no, you need to wait for the city to decide what we're gonna do, and then,
My concern is the existing homes in there. What if they have a fire and they have to rebuild? And now their property is useless because you can't build anything on
I'd say as far as I would know, rebuilding would be okay.
it. But we weren't sure on that when
But
we
we weren't
discussed
sure
it.
on that one either.
Yeah.
And the fact that we really don't have a lot of time to make some sort of decision.
Next time we discuss this, can we see that model ordinance, or can you even just share it with council after this meeting, maybe?
I can,
Or we could probably look that, but if you have it available, then.
yeah, no, I have it, so.
Yeah, you could just shoot it out an email or something, that would be great.
That would be great.
Okay.
Anything else to report?
The last one, this came through this afternoon, sorry, this one's not a question, this one's just an unfortunate report. The city today, I received an enforcement letter from DEQ citing the city for $18,000 for various violations. The ones in their letter occurred primarily between November 2022 and May of 2023, when the city of Amity did not have a public works supervisor. I think there might have been a couple in August 2023. Yeah, I see one or two in August of 2023. A couple others later of like missed reports as
I was
Greg
gonna say, was
as Greg was
especially
getting
the
up to
report
speed.
stuff.
Yes, a lot of it was reporting, it's a little unclear. So the way they do it, right, is essentially Public Works measures and records daily the discharge going to the outfall. I believe, the belief is that the employee doing the reports at the time was not pulling the numbers from the correct location, or didn't fully understand the report that they were doing, what they were filling out.
Keep in mind, he is only utility one worker too.
Yes, no, he shouldn't have been in that position. No, I'm sorry, I don't mean to like. throw anybody under the
No
bus.
blame on that.
Um,
We did not get into
But
that.
it does show that it was like every report submitted was not within our permitting numbers, but that lends to it not being done correctly, not
Right.
Yes,
We would
well,
not
and there are some that are so far out of the realm that we're pretty sure, like, the only way, like, the number would be, yeah, if you put the decimal in the wrong spot, or if you did the wrong conversion, right? Because it's fairly complicated that you have to, pull the right numbers in the right spot and make sure to convert them the right way, and you have to understand how all those things work together.
Is that something that our contracted DRC should have caught?
That's what I'm not sure of. I don't know how much they're supposed to be
He's only
involved
supposed to be signing
in
off on the
reporting.
reports.
Right, right.
It is that question, and I'm certainly exploring that, I'm exploring everything else along with it.
You got hit with this afternoon. so-
Yes, I sent a flurry of emails, talked to a bunch of people, but Greg does believe that, there might have been some like actual violations in there too. Our system is certainly aging, needs work. There are certainly some of the numbers that we struggle to hit with our effluent limits, but a lot of these are unfortunately, like reporting errors. For a while there, Greg went back through and tried to fix and repair the reports as best he could. Some of them, if the numbers weren't grabbed correctly at the time, then unless he just starts making them up, there's not much more you can do. So that's where we're at. Essentially the options available to the city, if we wish to appeal this matter, we can request a hearing within 20 calendar days from the receipt of this letter. The hearing request must be in writing. If we feel strongly that we should appeal it, I'm happy to go that route. I don't know that the city has enough data to strongly pursue an appeal or really fight back, unfortunately, in this time period.
Can we appeal for partial forgiveness?
We might be able to, I'm not sure. I'd say I can certainly consult with the city attorney and anybody else who may be familiar. I understand Lafayette recently went through this process. So I'll certainly reach out to other city managers and see, what's out there, what the options are. The other thing that they note is that DEQ may allow you to resolve part of your penalty through the completion of a supplemental environmental project. SEPs are environmental improvement projects that you sponsor instead of paying a portion of the penalty. I can get further information, by calling or visiting the website. Like I said, I got here this afternoon, so haven't had a chance to explore that one yet, but from what I've heard in other communities, some of that funding can be used to improve our system, right? Basically, if we say, okay, we're pretty sure that this is what's causing the issue, or this is where we're struggling, maybe it's, automated measuring and better tracking so that we have the numbers correctly all the time. Then maybe part of it's we use part of this $18,000 to upgrade our SCADA system or to upgrade some piece, or I believe some environmental projects may be like helping the community at large or doing other environmentally, essentially trying to offset any damage that we may have caused by an effluent actually being that out of compliance.
So I quickly looked at the website that it noted, and you can have up to 80% of your fine can be used in that program. And so we would still, essentially 20% would still be going to DEQ, but there's multiple other ways we could explore it, either going back into our system or at least our ecosystem.
Which would be fantastic.
It would be great.
And kind of rounding back up to what Rachel said earlier, I would want to maybe pursue looking into whether there's some culpability to the DRP who was working,
DRC,
DRC that was working at the time, because it seems to me that that should have been part of what they were being paid to do.
So, when we were without a public works superintendent, Greg was hired the month before we lost our city administrator.
Right.
And so there was a time when about 6 months where there was a lot of oversight there. And I know from my position, I was very reliant on the fact that we were paying a contracted person to oversee that, a competent person to sign off on it. It was kind of like, well, we're paying the person to sign off for it, they'll make sure it's being done correctly. Also recognizing though, we had our staff that was trying their hardest to keep everything going to the best of their ability without the support that they should have had, just because it wasn't here. There was no need to provide that. So I definitely think it's worth looking into the contract we pulled with that individual.
Right.
Because one of the formulation factors of our fines, it's marked by an M, and it's like that mental, pretty much it's saying like gross negligence. And that is, something that they add in there. And so was that on our part, the city of Amity, not if we were paying someone competent to do it.
Exactly, I agree.
But we can leave that to Nathan to further explore. Sorry I had to share bad news. We've also probably shouldn't be blindsided because this has been creeping up.
Yeah.
And saying, Amity's certainly not alone, I will say that there's a lot of cities, DEQ's getting a lot stricter in enforcement. But I will do everything in my power to make sure that all of the reporting for last winter doesn't have the same issues, or any similar issues. And that especially as we go forward, that we can meet our limits, but.
So does staff currently feel like they have a handle on what we're supposed to be reporting on?
I believe so, yeah. We've worked with DEQ that they have I don't know what she's called, essentially a compliance officer. It's Brenda Kook. And she's worked directly with Greg and myself to kind of go through the spreadsheets and say, okay, like, this is how we fill out this is where these numbers go, this is where, and I believe that we've got a handle on it now, but like I said, I'll go back and double check and make sure that there's not still questions or outstanding errors or things going forward, but yeah, this was not a fun one, so.
And set alarms for reporting deadlines?
No.
Okay, well, to end on a low note, some big questions for Ethan. Tasha, we have your report. Do you have anything to add?
Except the harvest party for October 26th. So I'll be seeking volunteers to help with that.
What time?
I think we did 2 to 4. 2 to 4. And I can't pronounce the farm, but the little farm outside of town, between here and Whiteson, the Carrera Farms is donating our pumpkins this year.
Nice. When you make an appointment with them, will you let me know the details? Anything else?
That's all. I was gonna shout to Mama Maria that.
If I can add one more thing really quick. The community cleanup day is on Saturday, scheduled for Saturday. If anybody wants to volunteer, please let me know. Additionally, though, to note, I'm still working on the confirmation. So the public works yard is covered in construction equipment. And so we've reached out to the elementary school to see if we can use their large parking lot instead. Like I said, I'm still waiting on confirmation. Jess didn't have an issue with it when I talked to her on Tuesday, but reached out to Principal Rojas and sent her essentially a request this afternoon. And hopefully I can get that tomorrow and figure out. Our hope is to hold the event at the elementary school. We believe there will be a little more room, less construction equipment for people to run into, and it'll be a better facility for them, at least at this point.
That'll probably mean we also need someone at Public Works to direct.
We'll need to set up signs, especially right there on the corner of 3rd and
Maybe
Jellison.
have someone at the beginning of the day for people who line up ahead of time, but then I think that large sign.
We have a couple searches that happen though, during the day of people.
I know, but if
Yeah.
there's
If
a
there's a
sign
sign,
direct,
It should be fine.
multiple signs, we can post
And
it
then-
on Facebook. We can
Send
send out a text.
was gonna
Text me out. When that's confirmed, is that something we can do? If it's a confirmed change, okay.
The other thing, just touching on the city cleanup, is I noticed it's not on the calendar. And it'd be nice if those events ended up on our city calendar. It also is not in the news and events, the flyer itself. So it would be helpful to probably put that on there because we usually have a lot of questions on what is allowed and what isn't in the flyer. So that
Yeah, I
it'll be
was
clearly-
looking for that information
I
for
was
somebody
looking for that
yesterday as well.
Yeah, it's on Facebook, but it's buried down a couple weeks, so if we could get that refreshed and added to those pages, that would be helpful, I think.
Is anyone able to RSVP as a volunteer right now?
What time does it start?
8?
8 to 11?
Yeah, I think 8 to 11. Yeah, I could be there.
I could do the first little bit, I have to work it at 11.
Myself or my spouse would be there, one of us, switching kids.
Same, no, I'll be there. I'll be there. Okay. Anything else? I didn't see a public works report unless, nothing, okay. I know there was differences in this month, getting the agenda out.
I would say it would have been Tasha was gone, so I didn't have her help.
I did remind him though, to send it.
You did, but then also,
Yeah,
that was their super busy
the last step.
recovery week essentially, so.
We saw the library report come through, city engineer billing reports, the attorney and planner billing report by the COG. Any questions there? Okay, we will move on to business from the mayor and city councilors. So, council president, do you have anything for the good of the order?
I did not.
Councilor Harkis?
I was just gonna talk about city cleanup, we just did. I wanted to reiterate that we're doing the daffodil planting November 2nd, and we'll get more information out on that. Dig meetings have started, and our next meeting here at City Hall is on November 12th.
What was it, October 14th?
October 14th
Oh, yeah.
at 6:30.
Yes, October 14th at 6 a.m., a month ahead, so. And as always, we need volunteers for that. We're in the planning phases, so there's some people that have signed up that say they want to volunteer just day of, and then there's some people who want to be a part of the planning process, so feel free to reach out to my email or Erin at Flower Shop, and we can share information and get you on a list of when meetings are when they send out.
I'm just gonna repeat that one more time. October 14th at 6:30.
What is it?
The Dig Daffodil Planning Meeting.
Okay.
And then I also noticed in the packet that Tasha got a grant for the library from 99 Gals, and I wanted to point that out. Thank you. So that's awesome. It gives cultural passes that people can check out, and that's in the Oregon Garden in Silverton, Oregon State Parks, Evergreen Museum, and Gilbert House. Had admission tickets that you can check out. And so that's awesome for our community to be able to do that. So thank you, Tasha. And, yeah, but that's like above and beyond what you guys do, so thank you. That's all.
Okay, Councilor McCarthy?
With the addition of the dog park leash law signs, there's been a significant decrease in just these random dogs. There's still a couple of the regular offenders that my dog's well behaved, so I don't have to have it on leash. I keep conversations with one of those persons. And less dog filth randomly in the park. So I would say definitely a success. I'm not as scared to go to the go to the park with my dogs as I used to be. Still cautious, but.
Thank you.
It's good news, they're doing their job. Anything else? Okay, Councilor Shields?
Nothing to
Councilor Thompson? Nope. Okay, mayor's report and final comments. I have a whole page here, guys. So, first off, we have our LOC conference coming up the week after next, which falls on the scheduled work session. Nathan and I will be in Bend, so I wanted to ask and propose and ask people's availability for the following, having it on the 23rd. First off, would staff be available? Is the following Wednesday?
I believe
I'm fine.
it's fine.
Okay. Okay, so our work session will be held October 23rd instead. And then if we could discuss the reduced utility rates, and then also get sidewalks back on there. Okay, can we do that then for that? My quick shout out is, during what I'm gonna call the water crisis, and then again with Goucher Construction, Nathan has been door to door multiple times, posting on affected individuals' doors, and I just wanna thank him because walking and knocking and talking to people, giving them news that they might not want to hear is not the funnest thing, but it's really important that people get direct contact, so thank you for that. I also have down the citywide cleanup and the harvest party. In addition to the safe routes to school walk audit we did, we also had the consultants go to the APAP meeting, which is the local PTA. So that was good. They also did not have a huge turnout, but everyone that was there gave a lot of feedback. And it was a lot of the things that we had noticed during their walk or that had been brought up before in meetings. So it was really good that as we're sampling, different groups and getting feedback, there's definite places that are rising to the top as like highest priority needs. So I think that will lend to like a really strong plan. That might actually be all I have. Something I want council to think on before our upcoming work session, and I don't know if we'll have an agenda background item on this or not, is council initiated focused sidewalk improvements. I know that we've talked about setting up a program where we can help people or offset some of the cost. City council also has the authority to tell someone you need to fix your sidewalk because it's unsafe. And written in our code, that's kind of how it's written, is like unsafe. Just walking the town a lot like I do and like I have, and like I have with people that are like have a fresh lens on it because they're not from here. There's some sore spots that really need safety improvements just to be a functioning market. And so I know that's also not an authority that we've like really felt good about using or wanting to use. That's something I want the council to think about, is like, what would that look like? Or would you feel in what circumstances would you feel comfortable voting upon certain places where we need to engage with the property owner and say, hey, we're gonna need you to fix this. And unless there's any questions, that's all I have right now. If there's nothing else, I'll ask for a final motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes.